All right, there we go. Perfect. So welcome everyone. Tonight we will have our amazing executive board member candidates being introduced, being able to tell about themselves. Obviously, people can still decide to run up until the Congress, but those who have decided to run, I believe most of them will be joining us, or if not all, tonight. So very much welcome. I'm not the one who's hosting as last week. I'm only here as tech support. My name is Kati from the soon-to-be retiring EEB. Very happy to be here. But who's hosting tonight is Nikos Giotis, who is Data Research Coordinator at the German Press Agency, so DPA, and he has extensive experience in event facilitation, in workshops, seminars, debates, and youth engagement. And he also has rich experience and knowledge in European politics, as his department mainly works with and investigates issues related to the EU countries' elections. So I'm giving the floor over to Nikos and take a step back and be happy to listen in as well.
Thank you, Kati, and good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to help moderate this call. Before we begin, just a quick reminder of our ground rules for tonight. Please keep a respectful and constructive tone at all times. Audience questions can be posted in the chat. Each candidate will have their full speaking time without interruptions, and I will just keep track of time to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak. Now here is how the session will run. Each candidate will begin with a 3-minute introduction, presenting themselves and their motivation. After that, we will move to a 45-minute moderate discussion, where each answer will be up to 2 minutes. Then we will have our audience Q&A for about half an hour, where answers will be up to 90 seconds each. The whole debate will last 1.5 hours. My role here is just to keep the discussion flowing and balanced, and to keep track of time. So if we don't have any questions, we could begin. The first question for you is simple. Who are you, and why did you decide to run for this position? You have 3 minutes for your introduction. Maybe we can begin with Konstantin.
So, hello everyone. It's really nice to be here today. My name is Konstantin. I'm the president of Jeff Georgia, project manager in several youth organizations in Latvia, Ukraine, Georgia, and Brussels. I have educational background in business administration and management, but my working experience lie before moving to the civic society sector, working in the private and public sector. I would highlight working in international companies like HR specialist and financial coordinator of the project. But same time, I would highlight the working within the U.S. Embassy, where I was the one of the coordinators of USAID grants and the logistics in Georgia. I'm coming from Georgia, from non-EU country, and I can say that my life experience is really interesting. I was 5 years old when I faced the war in my country, when my village was timely occupied by the Russian soldiers. Then we can say that because of my life and my family situation, I faced the war in Ukraine. So that is, to be honest, one of the reasons why I'm running for the executive board member, because I want to bring the perspectives of the non-EU countries like Georgia, Ukraine, Moldova, and others to executive board and advocate for Jeff and also not Jeff, like a European EU enlargement. Another thing is that as I'm experienced project and grant manager, every year I'm obtaining the grants for the organizations where I work, more than 500,000 euros, and I'm working really actively with the grant programs like Erasmus Plus, Visegrad Plus, EYF, Nordic Plus, ESC, and etc. And I want to bring exactly these competencies to the executive board because, yes, maybe you are not going to see me as a person who is experienced in like a politics and advocating, and you can't maybe saw me really often with a microphone, but you gonna see me with my laptop, which means that I'm working and creating different projects for our network. Exactly, that is the reason why I want to run, because I want to empower the sections, especially the local national sections, because I believe the strong network can be built by the strong sections who are independent in the financial direction and the policy directions too. And another thing is that I want to bring the ideas of the sustainability and financial stress to the network itself, because I see and I want to, in my opinion, the executive board need to support a secretariat in building the sections and the network, because I was working with a different international network like a Measure Europe and etc. And then I saw what it means to have a financial problems and not enough resources. So I don't want this to happen to us. And I have my vision to empower sections, not with like a trainings, but with a mentorship.
Constantine, if you could sum up, because your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
That. So yes, this is shortly about me and my ideas. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Konstantin. Next would be Dvir. Let me know if I pronounce your name wrong.
All good, thank you. Yeah, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm Dvir. I'm currently doing a PhD in law and economics in Frankfurt Goethe University, and I'm a lawyer by training. As some of you know, I was born in Tel Aviv, where I was active from a very young age in peace organizations and also some human rights NGOs. And then I moved to Europe in 2020, and I joined Jeff in a European picnic organized by Jeff Brussels. And even though I was always like very progressive, very into human rights, this was really the first time where I discovered federalist politics as transnational politics, politics that are centered around humanity rather than the interests of nation state or one ethnic group or a religious group above all the others. And I found it very valuable. I think to imagine that people were sitting in Ventotene during the middle of World War II, when genocide was happening, and were dreaming about a united Europe with peace, with open borders, with freedoms that did not exist prior to the European integration project. I found it to be something very important to protect and to keep developing. After being in Jeff Brussels, I moved to Jeff Belgium, where I was policy officer and also national delegate to the FC. I was very active in PC3 throughout the years. And for the last 2 years, I've been editor-in-chief of the New Federalist, where we have really been working hard to rejuvenate the magazine, to increase the size of the staff, to do more projects, more writing workshops, to cover Jeff statutory events. And in the last few months, I was also focused on the Federalist Peace Forum that showed that federalism is relevant all around the world and can bring hope for peace for even the most disadvantaged groups living under the most difficult circumstances. I'm running because I'm very worried. I feel that the federalist politics and the European project are under threat by Eurosceptic forces and also by external forces like Putin and Xi Jinping and Donald Trump that would like to see a weak Europe that cannot stand alone on the world stage and fight for its values. And also the federalist movement is under pressure by far-right actors at home that are trying to cut our funding and basically kick us as federalists and as youth outside of politics. I think to counter this, we really need a coherent political program, which will be developed with like very high impact advocacy and also recognizing political opportunities, just like we did with the Federalist Peace Forum. I also think that we need to stress a lot outreaching to new groups that are part of European society, like Europeans with migration background. And I also think we need to enhance the transparency and accountability within the organization to restore the trust of the sections. You can read about all of this in my candidacy letter, but I just want to say that I think Jeff Europe is very, very important in European politics. I think it's the only voice of its kind. I think it's the only voice that is providing a real alternative to ultranationalism currently. And I think it's really important that we stay visible, both in Brussels, but also in the streets of Europe and in places where people are really on the front lines for the fight for democracy. And Europe, places like Tbilisi in Georgia, places like Moldova, places like Hungary.
Could you sum up, Dvir, please?
Yeah, so I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dvir. Next would be Nenad.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Nenad, and I started my journey in Jeff back in 2022 when I joined Jeff Serbia. later on, I became a president in 2023. Back then, we were only a candidate section, and I have worked on us becoming a full member section. Why am I running is that I have been participating and empowering fellow peers from Jeff Serbia to participate more in Jeff Europe events. However, we found them not accessible enough. And when I say this, I first and foremost mean by financial inaccessibility. That is happening not only in my section, but also across many eastern and southern sections as well. And I think this is an issue that we have to work on. We have to work on a better use of our budget, on promoting and financing the participation from all across Europe. And that is my first and I would say most important internal point. The second one is that I want to increase the transparency and communication between all the bodies of Jeff Europe, and most importantly, towards national sections. They should be more involved in the process of making decisions, but also be more involved when it comes to what decisions were made. And these are the top two priorities internally that I am really focused on, and they should be projected externally. My external points are that we need to do more on treaty change and enlargement simultaneously, that we need to advocate for a fiscal union, and that we need to fight for democracy. Because without democracy, neither of these points cannot be made. We cannot achieve any of these things without democracy. And that's why I think it is the most important that we advocate for a strong democratic institutions all across Europe, because we've seen what happens when far right and Russians intervene in our democratic institutions. And that's what I'm fighting for a strong Jeff, for a democratic Jeff.
Thank you, Nenad, and thank you for being on time. Next up would be Renis.
Yes, thank you a lot. For those who don't know me, my name is Reinis Giļs. I'm originally from Latvia, although right now I live in the Netherlands. And in Latvia, that is where my Jeff journey started back in 2022, I think. So I'm not in Jeff that long, only 3.5 years, but this 3.5 years experience has given me a lot of insight in the political frameworks, not only nationally and locally, but also on the European level. When I moved to the Netherlands, I established my local section called Jeff Zwolle, where I live right now. And later on, I became the president of Jeff Netherlands. And now I'm serving as the executive board member of Jeff Europe. So I decided to rerun, and why? As most of you know, I was ratified in this position in June this year, so I haven't been in the board that long. So I want to be at a table from the start instead of entering the mandate practically at its end. I want to build Jeff to its fullest potential that I see we can achieve. So I see that through my 3-pillar campaign called United, Empowered, and Impactful Jeff. And what I mean by that is that I see Jeff as more as an organization that needs to build more collaboration, not only externally, but especially internally, to build closer collaborations and relationships with the national sections and the local sections. We also need to improve the structures that exist right now in Jeff. And I can do that. You can also see that from my experience in my previous Jeff board positions. And I also want us to see to be more loud on a European scale. So we need to advocate more. And how we can do that is through using our FC resolutions as a base to build long-term campaigns. So this is one of the solutions that I see as implementing right away. And to build unity and strength within the network, I really want us to build upon that from the start of the mandate. So we start talking to the FC, the Secretariat, and the national sections, and talk how we want to work together so that we can start the mandate on a good note and we can finish it on the same note, so that we would not end up in the situation that unfortunately we are in right now. So these are my top 3 priorities that I want to achieve in the next mandate, but I know that some questions will go maybe more in depth into my positions. So thank you.
Thank you, Reinis, and also for keeping the time. Next would be Elion.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. I'm Elion. I am from Kosovo and I represent 2 sections, JEF Kosovo and JEF Albania. And I've been part of JEF family for 6 years now. So I celebrate 6 years at this wonderful family. In JEF Europe level, I've been in different positions as a trainer, as an organizer of events, as a participant, and as a co-founder of the Federalist Society at the College of Europe, where I studied in Nathalin in Warsaw. So my education is, I have 2 masters, one in media communication, and I specialize in PR at the University of Tirana. Then I have a second master's from the College of Europe in Nathalin, and I specialize in EU neighborhood policy. The reason why I decided to run for this position for the executive board of JEF Europe is after a thoughtful consideration and after all my activities in JEF Europe in all levels. And I thought that this is the moment to see also my region, the Western Balkans, being represented at the EB of JEF Europe. And I saw it as a momentum, especially now that the enlargement is still in the conversation and we are seeing it and witnessing it every day, that is closer than ever. But we need to discuss it even more in JEF Europe level. But this decision also came for several reasons that we will talk probably later in the evening, because it's related also to internal things, to external things that I really want to contribute during this mandate for these 2 years. That is extremely important for me, especially for me coming from a small section and representing actually 2 small sections in this case. And I'm really happy that I see that there are a lot of great candidates for all the positions. So this is something that makes it even more interesting. It has been challenging. This campaign has been quite extensive. It has been challenging, a lot of efforts, a lot of communication, but still I see that what connects all of us is the spirit of a united Europe, of a federal Europe, and this is what connects all of us. This is what I believe, because JEF for me is more than simply an organization and a movement, but it has been a space of belonging, of learning and empowerment. And this is what I learned for all these 6 years. This is what I want to spread to all the people that I will meet in the next few years.
Sum up, Elion, because your time is up.
And this is my main motivation why I'm running for the executive board of JEF Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elion. And to Achilles and Benedetta, welcome. I will repeat the question since you joined a bit later. It's just an introduction. You tell us who you are and why you decided to run for this position. And you have 3 minutes for this question. Achille, you can start.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. And sorry for the small delay. So hello, everyone. My name is Achilles. I'm from Greece, and I'm currently pursuing a master's double degree with London School of Economics and Columbia University. So I'm in New York in international finance. I'm an economist by training, and I'm also working at Atlantic Council, which is a think tank in Washington. So my main reason for running at a personal level, if you will, was consolidated after Vance's talk in the Munich Security Conference, if you will, on the 14th of February 2025, at the beginning of the year. It was a moment of quite deep reflection, if you will, in the sense that I realized at that moment that Europe is now the only entity that believes in the values of democracy, of pluralism, and really of what constitutes enlightenment and how to structure a debate. And these values need to be represented, and they're currently underrepresented. They're underrepresented because Europe's framework does not allow it to sign as it has to sign. And at the root of this is the insufficiencies and the barriers that we have imposed on our own selves. And these barriers can only be overcome through federalism. So I was a founding member of JEF Greece back in 2021, and I've worked with JEF Greece at the local level as the Secretary General of Cyprios Athens, and at the national section as a policy officer and later a president. And afterwards, since 2024, for a year's mandate, I was at the executive board of the Young European Ambassadors, which is the communication program for the Eastern Partnership countries of the European Commission. So really, with this framework as an economist on one side and having worked with Accession, these are the two sort of areas where I want to focus. I think federalism needs to play an important role in bridging competitiveness with what we call social welfare Europe. We tend to believe that these two things are mutually exclusive, and really, if you even see, for example, today or yesterday, the EU weakened its climate goals, right? This stems from the division between competitiveness and our climate goals, and it actually stems back to 2023 when we had the agricultural protests associated with right, left. So this is a false dichotomy that leads to suboptimal outcomes, if you will. And it's only federalist solutions and solutions negotiations at the right level, not an intergovernmental, but a more supranational level that can give a solution. And with enlargement, we've just had the green light for 2030. There's a lot of work to be done, and I'm looking forward to discussing it more. But the main issue where we need to work is making sure that this is a process that's driven by the citizens and not top down. Thank you.
Thank you, Achilles, and thanks for keeping the time. Benedetta, your turn.
Thank you so much. Sorry for guys for joining late tonight. If anything, this helps me like bringing the spotlight on the importance of strengthening the discussion about public infrastructure among the European Union. The fact that still in capitals, we still have like so many young people being had to depend on cars instead of being able to use public transport. So many of you guys already know me. This month marks my 7th year in JEF. I joined JEF in Belgium, even though I discovered it a couple of years prior when I was doing my European voluntary service, my second one, because the first one was in Turkey, and the second one was in Berlin. And in front of a doner kebab, after a couple of years, I had a big discussion on how I was not really in favor of Euroscepticism, but I could not stand the European Union as it worked. And someone told me, you know, what you're actually talking about already exists. It's called European federalism. So I ended up talking to a friend of mine who was part of JEF Napoli at the time. I didn't grow up in Italy, therefore, like for me, that was something interesting to see, but I thought it was an Italian reality. And then I moved to Belgium after my degree in politics and law in the UK, and I got a job in the European Parliament. And if anything, that showed me how even more the European Union, in the way that I think about it, is not what is reflected in reality. Working for the president of the European Parliament was risking turning me into a Eurosceptic. So I ended up like joining JEF Belgium, and in the span of a year, less than a year actually, I ran for the national election at the Congress, and I was communication officer of JEF Belgium starting from 2019 to 2021. As you know, 2020 was the year of COVID. Therefore, my job as communication officer became kind of like a 360 like in terms of responsibilities, because I had to find new ways so that we could actually still get our members. And JEF Belgium was still a very tiny reality. So we really had like the members that we had to keep them involved. So I started reaching out to the people in the Secretariat, to the people that were in the FC, in the EB, to try to understand more of JEF Europe, try to get to know more. And then I think finally my first event in JEF Europe in person was YFED after COVID. And that was one of the best events I ever attended. And I love to have all of these new ideas. But I knew also that my mandate in Jeff Belgium was going to be over, and I was moving to Estonia, where there was not any Jeff section. So I was very lucky to have some very good guidance. And when I moved to Estonia, I decided, okay, I'm going to start this Jeff Estonia project. And then in the span of 4 months, I can leave it to Estonians. Instead, my plan remained from 4 months to 4 years. I funded the section starting from a post on Facebook because I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the language. I didn't have any friends in Estonia, so I didn't really know how to start. And then in 2024, so a few years later, we were actually hosting the entirety of the Jeff network in Tartu.
Sorry, Benedetta, could you sum up, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. This is how I ended up in my current role now as the capacity building task force co-chair. And this is what I would like to keep doing. I think I have matured in the 7 years in Jeff, a bunch of different experiences, and I've seen Jeff in very different roles. And this is what I would like to keep focusing on, how to help strengthening our sections, rebuilding our network, and continuing the great work that the Federalists before us have done.
Thank you, Benedetta. And thank you all for your introductions and for sharing your background and motivation. Now we'll move to the practical side of the executive board role itself. For this section, you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And we will also start the other way around, so the same person is not always responding first. So we will start with Benedetta. And it's a question about policy. Each executive member is expected to follow specific policy areas. Which policy topic or portfolio would you be more interested in leading? And how would you make Jeff work in that area more visible and impactful? Benedetta, the floor is yours.
Fantastic. It is something that I've really put a lot of effort in this campaign to present. So in my career, I'm currently a senior consultant for data ethics and AI. So digitalization is kind of my daily thing. And I can definitely say that even though the AI bubble, as it is as an economic focus, is definitely going to implode very soon. However, its effects are long-lasting and they're not going to go away. And as we are 1 generation ahead, it is important for Jeff to really focus on the matter of digitalization. We cannot continue this idea that the European Union is what regulates. And even in terms of regulation, if you look at the AI Act and what actually the AI Act presents, it's literally water. Its regulations are not applicable and do not actually hold any kind of accountability or consequences. So I would really like to have a digital lab within Jeff Europe that could be kind of an agglomerate between policy, between having very pragmatical digitalization tools within Jeff. I'm thinking of potentially an app in which we could index all of the Jeff materials, all the Federalist materials that we have. I'm talking Federalist Academy. I'm talking articles on the New Federalist, the policy resolution. All of that could have one index and could have easy to reach, in order that when you're looking for a Federalist position on a certain matter, you just have to go by keywords instead of having to look at 1,000 resources. I'm talking seminars across the continent in which we actually talk about the consequences of AI and digitalization on the workforce, on mental health, on youth employment, and also on defense, because that we like it or not, unfortunately, Europe is at war. It is not our choice, but it is the situation, and we cannot talk about enlargement without talking about defense. And currently, digitalization is also reshaping the way we do war. So those 2 topics, I think, are definitely 2 things that I would like to definitely focus more. I had the immense pleasure of being representing in 2 different contexts, Jeff Europe and Ukraine. And I think in this sense, we really need to start focusing on the conversations that are uncomfortable and that perhaps are complicated, but we know that we have the resources and we have the capacity to build the network. So I think that this is what we should be focusing on.
Thank you, Benedetta. And sorry for interrupting you, but we're going to give everyone an equal time. Next up could be Achilles.
Thank you, Nick. So I had the chance before to speak about this idea of the federalist spirit that connects competitiveness with social welfare on the other side, and also for assessment. So I guess I can use the time now to tell you that for the first time ever, these 2 are now bridged. They're bridged because now we finally recognize that we need to have simultaneous treaty reform if we want to have the accession of new countries. So this opens up the space to talk for the first time ever since the Big Bang expansion in 2004, 2007, to talk for the first time for how we can really reconsider Europe's institutional architecture. And there are a lot of things to be done. I will also persist on fiscal integration, which was mentioned before. So right now, one of our major weaknesses is that we have unharmonized business cycles, for example, and this reverberates into the political sphere, which is particularly important because it fuels populism, it creates Euroscepticism, and a very weird condition where when Mediterranean countries are performing well, the center is malperforming and vice versa. And so obviously this does not allow us to proceed not only with economic integration, but also with political integration, because the process is politicized. So with the Federalist Bridge, what we aim to do as the Young European Federalists is going to be to reintegrate policy areas, not in a vertical component, but in a horizontal component. What can unite competitiveness with social welfare? And so this will be a big campaign. And when it comes to accession, I envisage the creation of an accession tracker in our website, complementary to the work that's going on with Complete EU, which will allow us to communicate, to do lobbying, and also to communicate to citizens on how the integration process is going, right? Because countries cannot simultaneously perform reform in 30 plus chapters, which are now called clusters. It's impossible. And we need to have a viable way to communicate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Achilles. Next would be Elion.
Thank you very much. As I have mentioned also in my campaign for my political priorities, I have emphasized especially two political priorities. The first one is about security and defense, and especially promoting Common Security and Defense Commission, where we discuss this policy, which is extremely important. And one of the main slogans of this campaign that I am thinking of creating is a federal Europe that can defend itself. So this is something very important. Like first of all, to initiate a JEF Europe Security and Defense Task Force to coordinate policy input and youth positions in Europe's security agenda. So this is one of the main priorities, but also at the same time to organize panel discussions with experts, depending whether online or in person, and to produce short and accessible policy briefs, which is extremely important to link federalism with security. And also, one of the main ideas is to launch a Youth for a Secure Europe campaign to raise awareness on why European unity defense matters for democracy, peace, and freedom. But as you know, one of the main political priorities that I have as well is enlargement, because I'm coming from a region that is really seeking for enlargement, and it's a really important momentum, especially for what we see in Montenegro and Albania as front runners now. But as for me, coming from Kosovo, we see that Kosovo, Serbia, and Bosnia and some other countries are a bit not in the best momentum right now. So it would be very important to establish a working group on enlargement and neighborhood policy, so to drive advocacy and link
sum up, Elion?
Yeah, and advocate towards EU policy makers. So these are like my two main political priorities.
Thank you, Elion. Next would be Reinis.
Yes, thank you a lot for the question. Just for context, right now I have policy portfolios of Eastern Partnership and Youth Policy, with co-lead portfolios of EU budget and climate. But in the next mandate, I would really like to stick with the youth policy one, because that's one of my main reasons why I join Jeff as I want to see more youth participation across Europe. So I would really push for that and brainstorm ideas together with the sections, because that's, in my opinion, how Jeff should work, and not that EB decides one thing and then everyone else follows. So I want to brainstorm that together. Climate is also something that I'm really interested in, as I also study that. And I want to see Europe to keep its promises and keep to its pledges. So I want to build solutions together, not only with sections, but also with our partners who are specialized in climate policy. Then I'm also really interested in treaty change that includes far right, as well as peace, freedom, and justice. These are main priorities how Jeff should function, in my opinion, in general. And without this, Jeff cannot really exist without it. So those are the 4 portfolios I would be the most interested in to have. But I'm also interested in security and defense, enlargement, and Eastern Partnership, something that I have right now. But at the same time, I know that the candidates here have better knowledge over these areas than me. So I am more than welcome to give these portfolios to people who actually know what they're doing and how they're doing it. So these are my policy priorities.
Thank you, Renis. Kati, could you highlight Elion again? And in the meantime, Nenad, you are next.
Thank you. I previously did mention my 3 main policy areas, and thank you for the chance to elaborate more on them. So the most important, of course, is for me democracy, because any of the policy areas that we, as Jeff, focus on need democracy and democratic institutions all across Europe in order for us to advocate for them. So my biggest political priority would be democracy promotion all across Europe, and also building the democratic resilience of first and foremost our sections, but helping them build democratic resilience within their communities. The second priority is for me enlargement simultaneously with the treaty change. I would say we've seen the Gozzi report, and that is something that I really want to focus on how we can work more on enlargement step by step, but also how can we make it, how can we adapt the system so that it can actually support the accession of more member states. And thirdly, it is that I want to advocate for a fiscal union, which I would also agree that it is stopping us for making bigger political steps within our union.
Thank you, Nenad. Dvir is next.
Yeah, sure. So the first policy portfolio that I would love to take is the democracy under pressure. I think it's really one of the most important campaigns that Jeff Europe has, and it shows how visionary we are as an organization, that we started talking about Lukashenko, the dictator, when everybody else in Europe was still busy cooperating and causing up to him. I love this campaign, and I represented Jeff Belgium in this campaign, and also TNF. We have also won Best Campaign Award for our campaign on 2024. And I think we need to make it like much more grassroots focused, especially that so many protests are going on. I think this is a great opportunity for all the EB members to actually go across Europe and join the youth that is protesting for democracy, because institutions are the art of federalism. I would also love to take defense from a very unique perspective, because I think that in the end, we as youth have a very significant leverage there. What we have now are national governments saying, bring back conscription. And who will have to join the militaries? We, the youth, right? And I think we as youth can easily say, we are not willing to join national militaries to serve national interests, to fight for these very nationalistic values, but we would be willing maybe to pull our weight and not necessarily to join, but to support these efforts if we are fighting for Europe. And I think that this is something that's very important because right now it's an existential threat for Europe, and we as youth have to shape the way that Europe will tackle these threats. Apart from this, there are two more executive portfolios that I would have to take, which would be the TNF portfolio, which I think is very important. Not many organizations have a multilingual network of magazines, as well as the external action, because I think we have showed in the last mandate that when we do smart external action, we bring a unique European perspective to international affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dvir. Konstantin, you're up next.
Yes. From the policy perspective, I have several directions I would love to work. The first is youth participation, and I can say that we can more actively promote the youth participation and advocate for it, because right now, within the ongoing protests all around Europe and the world, we can say the youth is and the main driving force of this protest, change, and etc. And we, as a pro-European youth organization, need to work more in that level, and not only to work in the direction of empowering young people from social political direction, but also to take and support the grassroots organizations on local, national, and international levels. Second topic is youth employment. And I would love to work within my mandate to advocate for that, and especially against the free internships, because we can say that a lot of companies are using this as like a tool to save up money and use young people as just a resource and like not to invest in us. And another topic that I would love to work is the security, because of ongoing war, and we can mention that ongoing war and this effective inefficient of the support that is coming from Europe or from other unions and the countries and etc. It's really that is like giving the Russia possibility to continue its military action against the Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Serbia, and their influence in other directions too. So I want to stop that, and I want to advocate more in that way. And the fourth point, I would say, the more support to civic society, because right now, especially with the stronger far right and different groups, civic society is under pressure, and we need to advocate not the cutting the budget of the Erasmus Plus and different this kind of projects, but advocate for increasing it and providing not only the project-based support, but additional the structural support to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin. And now we go to our next question. Executive board members also coordinate projects like the Cooperation Youth Vote or Words of Europe. Can you share how would you manage such a project in practice, from idea to implementation, ensuring it delivers concrete results? We will switch up the order again, so Konstantin will start.
Yes, thank you for that question. I have a plan to establish a Jeff Grants Lab, and on which I would love to work, because we had a lot of capacity building trainings and etc. But like these trainings are short-term affected, so it's like a participants are motivated, but then this motivation disappears. So I want to create a mentorship where for 2 to 3 months, different sections gonna select the representatives, project managers, executive board members, secretary generals, and step by step we're gonna go different opportunities that exist to strengthen our local and national sections, and step by step the building up the projects. Outcome of this mentorship is gonna be already applied applications, not just the ideas and the knowledge, but exactly applied the projects. And I want to do it twice a year, which is gonna be before the deadlines of Erasmus and the EYF. So within the 2 years mandate, I would love to have the 4 mentorship program for at least each mentorship minimum 15 to 20 members. And I have this experience and I want to share it. This is one project that I would love to work, but another is to mentor the Jeff enlargement, because there's a lot of interest groups and they need the exact guiding, how to establish a Jeff section in Lithuania, in Armenia, in Azerbaijan, in Turkey, and plus to support the national sections, to establish local sections, because our network is built on the ideas of federalists. And if we, the sections, are not going to be the federalists and promote the local representation, then how we can advocate on that values on international level. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin. And yes, to the question, how do you plan, yes, to write new projects and to bring, to manage a project in practice from idea to implementation, and how you can make a project to deliver concrete results. Next up would be Dvir.
Yeah, I think before we even apply to a project, we need to ask ourselves, how does this project serve us as a movement? How does this project further our political goals or strengthen the organizational structure that we have? Because I think we also need to be careful of projects that would drain resources from us to things that are not about promoting our political goals, whether our goals are federalism or democracy, or many of the important goals that we have as Jeff Europe. I think when we do find a project that actually fits with our vision, with our political platform as Jeff, then we really need to assemble a team, a consortium that can really work with it. And I think there we can also work with partners and also in cooperation with national sections. The Federalist Peace Forum was a really crazy idea that some people were bringing up during the FC in Tartu. It developed into a fully fledged consortium that brought money not only from the Council of Europe grant that we have won, despite the project involving non-European actors, which is actually very, very rare, but also money from UEF and a crowdfunding campaign that we have managed and hundreds of small donations. And I think this was because the political vision behind the project was very, very strong, as well as the political will. Regarding how to do the organization in a good way, I think this matters with this is very similar to how we organize any good organization, right? You need to write the minutes. You need to have a clear division of responsibilities. You need to have periodical meetings to make sure the project is advancing on time. And you also need to show a certain flexibility to overcome bureaucratic and technical obstacles that can hamper the implementation of projects. And I personally think that if we have managed to do it with regards to the Federalist Peace Forum, that again involved very different actors with different political priorities, different organizational structures, and even some actors that are not registered as NGOs, then we can do it with any type of project that fits our political platform as Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dvir. Next up would be Nenad.
Thank you. So when it comes to the project management, I would say it would be the most important for us to actually make these projects more accessible. We had in Jeff Serbia, for example, problems because we could not apply to all of the projects because we were not part of the European Union. And I think we need to look more for projects that would make it able for all sections to apply, not only for the EU sections. And that would be my priority to really find the ways how we can support all sections and not only a handful. And when it comes to which projects I would like to manage, I would be open to manage Europe What If, Complete EU, or Democracy Under Pressure, all of which align with my political priorities. But I would say that the most important thing for me is for us to make a diverse set of donors so that those projects can really support our network and not only certain sections, because we need to be more accessible for everyone in order to build our federation equally.
Thank you, Nenad. Next up is Reinis.
Yes, thank you a lot. Right now, I am managing the Complete EU project, and through that, I've noticed few things that we could change in the next mandate, and I would like to see it changed when we write new projects. So first of all, we need to start the project by looking at our values and our opinions, as Dvir already mentioned, and focus on what actually we as an organization need and what are our wants. And then we start brainstorming what needs to be implemented during the project with the FC, with the national sections, through our resolutions that we pass, because collectively we can make the best plan possible. And we'll see what is missing and how we can fill it with the financing that we can get through the set project. Of course, we also will need to find partners, and I really want us to partner up more like we did before with our national sections. So really include them in the writing process. And also when we do make an event through a project in said country, with even if it's a different partner than a JEF national section, we still need to include that national section in the execution of the project. And also we need to make our budget a bit more flexible so that we can distribute it to the sections with less financial means, so that we can spread the budget more outwards and not collect it inwards, and we spend it all how we want to see it spent. I really want our sections to have this opportunity as well, because I mean they are the ones who need it the most. And I want also us, both the Secretariat and the EB, to be more available to the sections who are participating in said projects, so that the communication.
Could you sum up, Perenis?
Yeah, of course. So the communication is clear, and we can complete the project to the fullest of its potential.
Thank you, Renis. Next one is Elion.
Thank you very much for the question. This is a very important topic, but what is really important for me and how we should start is to help the small sections to be active on these matters. And this asks for a supervising platform that I really was thinking to establish in the to bring it in the EB and to promote it as an idea, where we, where especially like the big sections supervise the small sections, and here like they give the ideas how they can implement projects directly, because sometimes we see that the biggest issue is that some JEFers might not have the connections, might not have the network that might help them to organize such activities. For example, one of the main ideas is like to have federalism on the move, like as a cycle of events, but being organized outside of the capitals and not only in the capitals of Europe. This could be organized. It's not a hard idea, because what is needed here is just like to give the JEFers just a platform, like how they can do that and how they can contact specific stakeholders that could help them to implement the idea. I did it also the same way, because I didn't have finances or I didn't have anyone to support me with really small sections, but I contacted directly the embassies. I contacted like people that were involved in civil society, and they helped me to organize. They even finance sometimes catering or like small things related to the venue. So this is extremely important to create a supervising and mentorship platform, especially for the small sections. This is also one of my priorities, to help them in building capacities, but also to be active and to be there, to see that they are seen and they are not left behind, and to work directly with them, supervised by these big sections.
Thank you, Leon. Next up is Achilles.
Thank you. So in creating the campaign for the Federalist Brits, I would propose a tripartite structure. So first of all, I think that we should begin by identifying the biggest schisms that exist right now in Europe and identifying the costs that these have, both institutional costs, but also the political and economic costs. So this can be schisms between member states, between generations, between political positions. I think that JEF is in an unparalleled position to leverage that it's simultaneously political but also non-partisan in order to build consensus and to unite voices. Then at the second stage, I would work a lot and very closely with the PC1 committee in the European institutional architecture to systematically and rigorously apply the same question. How can federalism solve this problem? How can federalism solve this problem? How can federalism fix migration? It's a two-level game that's simultaneous. We need to bring it to the European Commission. Okay. How can federalism help with transportation policy? There are not enough connections between different regional levels, and they have to go through the borders, through smaller cities. Federalism fits there. How can it come down to competitiveness? We don't have a unified stock market, for example. All of these are things that are apt on federalism, and we need to apply the federalist framework. And then finally, the important thing is dissemination. And there we need to work. We need to work with think tanks. We need to work with institutional actors. I was talking with the head of the Digital Democracy Labs of Meta. He's Greek. And I told him about the campaign that JEF ran, Your Hope. You know what he told me? He told me this is an exciting, amazing idea. We should do an event together. I think that there is so much capacity that we have not utilized. We have not worked enough with think tanks that are pro-European, like the Jacques Delors Institute or the Hertie School. And we also need to work on promoting these political non-partisan ideas. If you look at the work that WEF has done in their Instagram, they've gotten thousands of followers in just a year. Why? Because they have continuously and rigorously applied this framework. And I think we need to
sum up, Achilles? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Achilles. And now, Benedetta.
Thank you. So, project-wise, I do agree that sometimes there can be projects that, if they're not structured in the right way, participants will forget about it the moment they actually land home. However, I do believe it's a matter of how do you structure the curriculum and what also is the meaning behind the project. In Bratislava, just in the last weekend, we've been able to host a fantastic capacity building seminar in which, instead of focusing on the soft skills, which majority of our volunteers, if they come to a level in which they actually get to lead a national section, let's just say that they have at least like a good introduction to. We structure with a very theoretical approach and knowledge on what is federalism, how do you do advocacy, how do you handle finances, what are the membership management tools and situations you can use. And from there, we moved to the practice. They were given different scenarios on different countries. They were fictional, but actually they were representing situations that both me and my co-chair have witnessed in JEF in the last years. And they had to basically create like their own action plan. And they were given twist and turn along the way. And then they will have a dissemination project now to bring home and to do in their own section. So I really believe that there is like definitely a focus needed for capacity building, and we do need to have actually more project in this matter. And perhaps this could be something that we tackle specifically for the newcomers. In the same way, I think we really need to restructure the way that we do project and dissemination on federalist knowledge. Ventotene is amazing, but it's also an extremely classist opportunity, unfortunately, because a lot of people do not have the finances to fly to Ventotene from other countries around Europe. And also the level of knowledge, let's just say that the high quality level of knowledge is available in Italian. And I say this as someone who speaks both languages. So I really believe that we need to rewatch the format in which we actually do federalist education. We should have perhaps like more regional micro seminars on federalism divided among the regions. In this way, we can tailor the curriculum, not only with the core federalist information, but also tailoring to what are the federalist discussions in the regions that we're tackling. I hope this time I managed to keep the time.
Yes, Ioannas. Thank you so much, Benedetta. And thank you to all the candidates for your insights so far. We will now move on to the audience and to the Q&A part of our session. Here is how it will work. Please post your questions in the chat. I will group similar questions together and I will read them out. And for this section, each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer. We do this so we answer as many questions as possible. And I think so far we have just one question. Alexis slide into my DMs. I will also copy paste it here. And we will switch up the order again. So this is the first question. What federalist education we have and how do we promote it? And we will start with Benedetta.
So federalism education is basically what brought me into JEF in the first place, because I believe that if we stop saying the F word, then we are not really differentiate ourselves from other European organizations and other things that are available there. Unfortunately, I know that it's uncomfortable to talk about federalism, especially in countries where it's associated to something politically very far from us. And that's why we need to really rethink how we do federalism. I think Ventotene, as I mentioned, is a great project. I've been attending as a speaker there to talk about digitalization and federalism for the past 3 years, and I'm extremely grateful. But I do not understand why we should not be putting more effort also using digital tools, perhaps. We have different podcasts and apps and so much knowledge out there. However, the things are not actually available. And all of the federalist knowledge in terms of the education materials that we have is unfortunately mostly in Italian, maybe French, maybe German. So even providing a little summaries in English and then added to this digitalization index database of federalist knowledge that we could have as an app. And an app is not something easy, it's not something hard and expensive to build, guys. I'm talking about something that you can do on your phone in 30 seconds, like sort of. This could already help really bridging the gap between the federalist education that we would like to provide in JEF, that we advertise as such, and what actually our regular members, so I'm talking about the member that attend a few events, not the member that becomes a board member and actually becomes one of you, your regular person, they actually can bring home. So this is where we need to build a bridge, I think.
Thank you, Benedetta. Next up is Achilles.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, we have an amazing amount of motivated people that are working to disseminate federalism, and they're doing an incredible work. What is perhaps missing does not come down to them and their work, but rather the underlying structure. And I think what is missing is the political framework, and this is where we should focus when we're discussing federalism. So let me give an example. We need to have political positions that are easily marketable and relate with citizens and with people. Federalism is not a detached ideology that, oh, you should worry about this. Federalism is urgent. Federalism is urgent. Why? Because it matters for Europe's security. People want a narrative. The narrative, for example, that Europe is, individual nations are becoming insignificant. Federalism is the only thing that can save us. This simple narrative is important to be highlighted and to be communicated effectively. And it's important for this to be communicated both inside JEF through more deliberative process that leads to a common agreement of what constitutes federalism, because there's also a very lively debate on this and it's active. And then as soon as deliberatively it is consolidated inside, to be communicated efficiently outside. These two processes will allow the people that are doing the street level work of communicating federalism to do it much more effectively.
Thank you, Achilles. Next up is Elion.
Thank you very much for this question, Alexei. It's a really important one. Honestly, I agree with what Benedetta said. It's also the language issue sometimes, because I've been also studying it myself, the way that federalism has been communicated since Manifesto di Ventotene. And I was going through books and platforms that are also online, but a good help was the Ventotene bookstore, where you could buy a lot of books, but it's not always open, unfortunately. And also like in places like Jean Monnet House, like where you could also find some literature, but not very open to public, unfortunately. The thing is that what we really need right now is to establish a Federalist Academy as a mechanism everywhere in Europe. And we have to include it, of course, also non-EU countries and sections, because sometimes people think that federalism might be this utopic concept, And we have to tell them that this is not a case. And it's extremely important to tell them why federalism is important. Now, when I'm posting a lot of things on my campaign, also on my personal accounts, I see that many people are reaching out and are really interested to know more about federalism and why federalism is important, why it's an idea we are promoting right now. So Federalist Academy should be like, as our institution, like it should be something that's really important that we have to promote and we have to establish everywhere.
Thank you, Elion. And next up is Erenis.
Yes, thank you, Alexei, for the really important question about like our core value of European federalism. Well, I want to start by saying that we already have Federalist Academy, right? But in my opinion, it's kind of slow going. We need to accelerate it and restructure it so that it's more popular and be more accessible. We want to start by using the materials that we already have. And I think that this board, especially CESC, has made it happen that we have a good archives included in the Federalist Academy and good history of European federalism. But we need to expand on it and make it available not only for Jeffers, but also for high school students, middle school students, students at universities and colleges. So make publicly available courses that are available online. I think that's a really great first step. And also something that we, in my opinion, have to do every year, or maybe even more than once a year, is hold sessions with the sections where we kind of remind them of what is federalism, how we see federalism, so that they have more capacity to go on the ground in their countries or in their cities, in their communities, and actually explain what European Federation and federalism means. And we need to do that across.
Your time is up.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Renis. And next up is Nenad.
Thank you for this question. And I think I can also agree with Benedetta when it comes to the accessibility of federalist education. However, I want to focus here more on our promotion of federalist education. I think we need to really emphasize the federalist values and to make a really good campaign and the point why someone should be interested in it. Because honestly, within our network, we have so many talented people that are already well informed about this. But what we must do in order to make federalism feel for other Europeans that are not part of our network want a European federation is actually to talk about the values that federalism brings and talk about why they should be interested in it and help them explore it. So I would say our most important goal is to actually promote more federalism education and to make it more accessible.
Thank you, Nenad. And now, Dvir.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to acknowledge that even we cannot agree what is federalism on any topic, right? Like that's what I like about Ventotene, where you have a panel where you have 3 different federalist perspectives on each policy topic that we are discussing. And I think that in the end, this is the diversity that we need to have when we discuss what federalism says on this topic or this topic. Now, I agree with Benedetta, most Jeffers won't make it to Ventotene. That's why the national sections and also regional consortiums should step up and organize training events that also have a political dimension. I was in the organizing team of both the International Berlin Seminar, the flagship event of Jeff Germany, as well as the training days of Jeff Belgium. And I thought it was very important to offer also a political session that takes place in parallel with other sessions. And I think the role of Jeff Europe there is not really to teach the sections what is federalism, but the role of Jeff Europe is to facilitate the exchange that would bring Jeffers from here to there, from here to there, and to actually produce this diversity of opinion, both at the national and the regional level. And basically, I think this is also the meaning of federalism in practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dvir. And now, Konstantin.
Yes, thank you. I would say that the federalistic education is the keystone of the Jeff ideas and the network. But I would say that we have a problem and on what we need to work. So because like now we are in the bubble of the Spinelli group and kind of we are teaching the federalism, promoting it to the people who already knows it. So I think that we need to work more and educate with the cooperate with the different political fractions, ideologies, and etc. And in that way to promote more actively the federalism. Another thing is that I think that we are too much concentrated and where the national perspective of the federalism, because yes, we are promoting, for example, the German understanding of federalism, the Italian, the Spanish, but where's the Greek understanding of federalism, where's the Albanian, where's the Georgian, where's the Ukrainian, where's the Latvian understanding of federalism? And I think that we exactly need to concentrate on that, because the diversity is the tools that is really making us strong, and we also need to promote the federalism in that way, because we, the federalists in Georgia, have a different needs, different understanding, while the federalists in Germany, they have different needs and different understanding. That's why I think that what we need to do, we need to structure and to change the format of the Federalist Academy, to give them this format of like we do as a campaign of democracy under pressure, where each organization are doing their own initiatives, bringing their own ideas and the perspective of the federalism within the local campaigns, with the months and activities and local actions, and in that way to promote our federalism. But additional thing is that we are speaking about, yes, European federalism, and I want also to come out and speak on that on international stage, out of European continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin. We have another question, and I think this will be the last one for tonight. It's a question from Albert. Do you have any ideas about the topics of climate change and also the development of AI in the European Union? We will switch up the order again. So, Konstantin, you will start.
Yes, I think in that way, we need to cooperate more with other networks, because yes, the Jeff's idea is to promote the federalism and empower young people, connect the social political participation. But we are in the same bubble. We are living in the same continent. We are living on the same planet. So these topics are really important for young people. And that way, I think it's going to be really nice to work with a different network like YE, Rural Youth Europe, and etc., who are really actively involved in these topics, and we can build more cooperation in that way and empower our members, because the employment, mental health, climate change, AI, that is a problem that we young people are facing. And we as a network, I think the first of our idea need to be to support young people and empower them, and then already to go on the other important topics of promoting federalism and etc. Because for me, everything comes to the Maslow pyramid, because like if the basic needs are not achieved and like satisfied, it's really difficult to speak with the people on like a soul and like a big philosophical values. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin. Next up is Dvir.
Yeah, sure. I think about climate change, it really shows that we cannot just say that, okay, the issues are ending at the border of Europe. In the end, it's a global issue, and what we need is a global action. What I find sad is that Europe is currently losing its lead in the green transition because the European Union is surrendering to the power of small lobbies representing a minority of the population, rather than following the popular opinion, especially among youth, that says, yes, this is our future, this is an existential issue for us, and we need to address it, and we need to take a strong green action now. So I would love to leverage all of the power of the EU, both on the international stage, to push for a strong green transition. And regarding AI, I think what we have now is an AI law that will probably, the EU has said it's our flagship AI law. It's great. It's the first AI law in the world, but probably it will not be implemented because it's already outdated, because it's already preventing the use of advanced AI models. And if it would be implemented, it would leave the European academia and European industry miles behind. So I think this is an example, for example, of a law that was passed hastily without enough academic and public deliberation. And I think Jeff Europe should develop an intelligent position how to balance the risks of AI as well as the huge opportunities, making sure we are not left in the past and are actually becoming part of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dvir. And now, Nenad.
Thank you. I think these questions are very connected because when we talk about the development of AI, we also need to talk about how it affects climate change, how much water does it take to power AI tools. And when we talk about the development of the AI, we really need to think about the consequences on our climate and how we can minimize them by not stopping or not developing AI, but developing it smarter. And when it comes to climate change, I agree that it is sad that Europe is lagging behind right now. I think we need to do more, but I think we also need to do it more globally because, for example, what happened here in Serbia is that European Union supported the non-transparent project of exploitation of lithium, which threatened to poison the Danube. And I think we need a more global approach to these issues on how we can make climate change happen all across the world, but focusing right now on Europe, how we can make it happen without damaging the ecosystems where lithium can be found.
Thank you, Nenad. And now to Renis.
Yes, thank you a lot for the question, Albert. And I mean, these two are really important topics for the EU right now and for the whole world in general. And something that, like my first thought when talking about climate change is how the EU is backsliding on everything. It is, like disregarding its previous targets. Like they're saying, oh, competitiveness is needs to be better, so that's why we are just gonna distinguish the climate actions that we are having right now, which is in my opinion just absolutely wrong. And I agree with the previous people who just spoke, like that it's a global issue and we need to also solve it on a larger scale. So I want to work together with our European partners who are working on this topic, the same as our national sections, to do the same on a national level. As per AI, I think the EU has pretty good legislation in place right now, but that's an issue that we have to be careful with and see that this legislation is not going backwards, and we keep AI to its base and not let it overtake everything as we've seen in movies and of course also potential scenarios in the future.
Thank you, Renis. And now to Elion.
Thank you for the question. On climate change, I believe that Jeff should promote the idea of a European Green Federal Deal, like a unified approach for energy transition, but as well for climate justice and resilience, including like all the regions and not only the EU member states, but like also the regions that aren't non-EU. And one of the projects that was quite interesting that I was also part of it, and I even organized a panel discussion and an event on that. It was during Greenie back in 2022 when it started, like with some projects in Slovenia and other EU member states. And it was quite an interesting one that showed how projects can unify us for such topics as climate change that we discussed publicly. And on AI, I think that we need a European framework that encourages like innovation, but at the same time to safeguard like democracy and ethics. Like Jeff can play like a vital role in this, like to push for more transparent and accountable, but also human-centered, I would say, like AI governance. So the technology serves the people and not the other way around.
Thank you, Elion. And now to Achilles.
Yeah, 3 quick points from me. when it comes to this topic. So if we're talking about climate change, we can say domestically and internationally. So at the domestic level, I think the most serious thing is that we're lacking the ability to mobilize capital for climate change. And now, although we might be discussing this from an economic perspective, let me give you the political perspective of this. A lot of the backlash that came from Poland and Hungary after the European Green Deal, after 2020, Poland is building nuclear right now. A lot of the backlash actually came and was enabled because there was insufficient capital mobility. And why was there insufficient capital mobility? Because the reading was that capital mobility for the sectors from one country to the other falls under an environmental jurisdiction or not competitiveness jurisdiction, which was a result of lobbying. There was, in my opinion, not sufficient funds for an organized lobby to support the entry of green capital into these countries. And so I think this is a matter of integration. Then internationally, climate change is not only a zero-sum competitive cooperative game, but it's also a distributive issue. And in the European neighborhood policy, the EU has consistently failed through its conditionality framework to support bottom-up movements, and it consistently worked with top-down actors that sometimes have their own priorities, and so conditionality often fails. And then finally, for AI, if you look at the foreign value added of the services sector, which is how much of the value is created at a foreign level and not domestic, it's over 90%. So Europe has some values that it can promote, but it lacks the sharp teeth in order to do so. And so, of course, we need an industrial policy there. And of course, we need federal solutions that can also mobilize and create some national champions in AI to protect the European values.
Thank you, Achilles. And now to Benedetta.
Thank you, and thank you, Albert, for this question. I mean, climate change and development of AI have been like a part of my core vision for Geoff Europe. So for me, they're deeply connected. The topic of my presentation in Ventotene actually this year was the Europe Twins transition in times of war, and it was exploring how climate and digital transformation they do have to advance together if you want to have a sustainable and federal Europe. And I was talking about how the AI and the digital tools can really help, like not only like track emission, rebuild green cities, but also monitor environmental damage, and also like to actually uphold people accountable for war crimes. So I did bring the experience in interviews that I've been able to collect. I was just coming back from Ukraine where I landed in Ventotene from a project on environmental monitoring. And yeah, I cannot think that we can talk about ecological destruction use as a weapon of war in these days if we not focus only, as I was mentioning before in the previous part of our presentation, on how digitalization is changing all of this. I also think that we really need to have Geoff leading on the digitalization and the ethical innovation discussion. And as you can see, we really need to train young Europeans to think federally about like these topics, because if you think about it in the span of like 6 people that we're here, so I feel that you heard like someone saying that the current political scenario in the EU for AI laws is too much, and if they will be implemented, it will be too restrictive. Someone that says that it's great and it's good as this, and you will have someone like me telling you that unfortunately it is plain water, it has no accountability, it has no effect. As it stands, it is not applicable because it just does not actually correspond to anything, and we still have foreign industries and foreign companies doing whatever they want with our data and training like their own AIs with our data, because the EU is not actually putting any accountability. There is no process right now to actually hold accountable and to restrict all of this misuse of data in AI. So in this sense, this actually shows so many ideas and so many brilliant minds that want to discuss about this. So in this regards, I think we need to talk about these two policies as interconnected together.
Thank you, Benedetta. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for the last question. Sorry, Anna. We have reached the end of our session. I want to thank all of our candidates for tonight's discussion, and thanks to everyone who joined and participated. I think it has been a valuable opportunity for members to get to know the people standing for the next mandate. And I want to personally thank Geoff Europe for inviting me to moderate tonight's call, and all of you for keeping it respectful, insightful, and on time. With that, I will hand the floor back to Kati for a short closing word.
Yes. So thank you so much, Nikos, for hosting this session, interviewing the candidates. And I'm sure our network has a whole bunch of questions to all of you. So the contact details for the candidates who have already submitted their candidacies are available on our website. So you know where to reach them, to reach out to them. And I'm sure all the rest will show up very soon as well. And you can always reach out to them also at the Congress to chat and discuss. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to stop recording now. How do I do it?